my passion lately is, there's so much hype material out there right now about AI, just like people wanting to put, and I understand, people wanting to put out AI content quickly and be a voice, right? But, at the end of the day, how many of us are truly understanding it from the ground up? How many truly, like you mentioned, understand when to use what model or when there needs to be fine-tuning, blah, blah, blah. People, I think, sometimes don't understand that there are different models, with different entities. But the thing is, AI is an assistant, right? It's not replacing our brains. It's an assistant, for one. And for two, there's more than one model.
Welcome to another edition of Cloud Unfiltered. I'm your host, Michael Chenetz, and today I have Erika Dietrick. How you doing, Erika? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
I'm doing great. I just got back from the Las Vegas area from Black Hat and DEF CON, so I'm on a high.
Nice.
So I'm a developer advocate at Cisco DevNet. I rep the security portfolio, but also, of course, in the AI space right now. And I've been at Cisco on and off for about 5 or 6 years now. I've been in network engineering support. I've worked as a software engineer at startups. I've ran the gamut, so...
Yeah, and that's why I think we get along too, because I've done exactly, I've done software development, I've done network engineering, I've done, all those kinds of things.
It's just more fun that way. You learn so much. And I like to stay challenged,
Yeah, I'm a shiny object guy. So I like, that's what I am, so I get bored with stuff if it's the same, and I have to learn the next thing.
I'm the exact same way. And that's what's kind of nice, I think, about being a developer advocate. We get a certain amount of autonomy to explore new tech, and they let me run with it. They're pretty nice about that. So
why don't you tell us a little bit about, maybe what it's like being a developer advocate at Cisco, because people don't necessarily associate developer and Cisco together.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of people don't know what a developer advocate is. I have to explain it to almost everyone I meet. So in general, right, I explain it as a developer advocate being about like 50% technically focused, writing code, building tutorials, whatever, creating solutions, and 50% community focused. So giving presentations, talking to the community, meetups, whatever. So that's kind of the day-to-day. And then at Cisco, obviously we're a little spicier over here because, we got networking and security. So I end up doing a lot of stuff. But I know we were talking before the episode started about, what it's like being a developer advocate at Cisco in particular. And I think there's like lots of good and different with that, right? Because the good is genuinely, I have so much to play with. Like there are so many directions to go in and I don't get bored.
Yeah.
And then the challenging part is, right, is creating that culture of having a developer community. And what does that mean at a company that was historically networking? So it comes with challenges sometimes too.
Yeah, I feel your pain. I was, obviously I've been in a lot of different areas of Cisco, but, I've been in a lot, only the non-traditional places in Cisco. Like I was working as the TME for our Kubernetes solution, and then our orchestration solution. And then I was in DevRel for about a couple of years and leading content community and events. And then, over to Outshift, where we're now doing AI and things like that. So, it's always trying to show people that, hey, we are Cisco. Our core was networking and still, is a big part of what we do. But we also do a lot of other very innovative things.
It is true. We are evolving. And even within DevNet alone, the skill set and the DevNet org is astounding, like the range of stuff people know. So it's an exciting place to be.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about like what are you working on in this area?
Yes, so although I am spread across a few different things, the thing that I'm really passionate about is AI coding assistance right now, because that's something I think can help all of our different developers, whether you are an application developer or you're into network automation using Python, right? So I've kind of dove into, we have these like fancy, shiny AI coding assistants, and how do they actually make your life easier? Like some real practical examples.
And so how would you use that, to demonstrate something? Like how do you use the coding assistant maybe in your day-to-day life or to show other people how to use it in their day-to-day life?
Great question. So, so there's two different ways, right? The first that I kind of tell people is basically, you're coding along and it's doing the predictive text. And I know that doesn't sound very exciting to people, but what is exciting about it, if you use it in that method, is that AI coding assistants have what's called contextual awareness. at least if it's built into your IDE, right?
Yep.
So it's not just predicting, pulling random things from the internet and putting it in your code base. It's analyzing everything around your code base and making very intelligent and often accurate guesses as to what you need to put next. So saves a bunch of time. It's great, especially if you do things like network automation, you're not coding every day. So you forget little things about Python or whatever. The other way that I teach people to use it, and I think this is the future, it's called comment-driven development. That's something I coined, put the little copyright.
Copyright at the top there. And just for my listeners who are not viewing, she made the little copyright symbol with her fingers.
So basically, I promote GitHub Copilot a lot. That's what I like using. And for instance, with Copilot, it's really good at taking a descriptive comment and generating code, importing libraries, whatever. And it's really fast to do it that way. So if you're somebody who can think logically through how a program should be built or a script should be built, again, it saves you a lot of time. So those are the two general methodologies I teach.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, as someone who I consider myself more of a hacker than a true programmer. I'm really good at gluing things together and creating glue code, and I've written my lot of stuff, but basically what you did before AI is you searched the internet and said, hey, I need this kind of function. And maybe you'd search Stack Overflow or some other kind of site to figure out, or a snippet library or something to figure out what you need and then paste it in. So what AI has done is said, you know what, we're going to analyze this whole library of things, and on GitHub, it's pretty much everything on Copilot, it's pretty much everything on GitHub, and we're going to give you or recommend those snippets for you. So you don't have to do that searching yourself. It's just recommending that.
Exactly. And you mentioned Google. So, I'm a big Googler. Well, all of us who, program, probably everyone in engineering is a big Googler.
Yeah.
And, but, Google's, not having a great time right now, not producing the best search results right now. And beyond that, right, when you Google something, you have to analyze every search result. That's another great use case for the AI assistants.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's pretty great at summarizing things. So I use it as a learning tool too.
Yeah, and there's actually this other thing I was playing with, and I can't remember the name for the life of me, but instead of Copilot and using, VS Code, it was another IDE that can use any one of those, but it also had a RAG interface so that it would be contextual. So that whatever code you use, it would analyze, understand your code, and then also use those AI engines to figure out what actually matches. So it was more contextual than just using VS Code by itself.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll have to figure out what that was called, but I was playing around with it recently. I mean, I've actually AI-ified my whole flow for Cloud Unfiltered, where I created a program in Go that basically what it does is it goes out there and it uses Whisper, which is a local AI implementation, to actually uses FFmpeg first to transcode or the video to audio, then uses Whisper to transcribe, and then calls out to GPT-4o to say, what is the YouTube description for this episode?
Yep. No, I remember when you told me that a few weeks now, my mind was blown, because I'm new to podcasting too. But that's the thing, right? Is okay, everyone agrees AI can make our lives easier, but we're not used to using AI in our workflows, and it's still evolving so quickly. So we need people kind of like you just described, hey, this is a practical way I made my life easier. Oh, okay, now I can go do that.
Well, that's the thing, when I talk to people, and I'm the worst person at this, and I've always said this, but, when I talk to people, I always tell them, look at the solution first. What are you trying to solve? Back into the technologies. We're too, and I'm like this, I can tell people this right off the bat. I'm too quick to say, hey, I want to use Kubernetes to deploy my application. Okay, yeah, that's really cool and sexy, or it was 10 years ago. But you know what? Maybe it's not the right solution. Maybe you don't need scalability. Maybe you don't need, redundancy. Whatever. Figure out what your needs are first, and then back into the technology stack.
Yeah, I feel like that's a great rule of thumb, period. No matter what the trend is, just solve the problem with the appropriate tools. It doesn't even always have to be the best tool, right? It just depends on what's going on for you. But
Hey, look, Heroku, to me, everybody's talked to like it was gold. Everybody always
Uh,
compares their solution to Heroku. I don't know why Heroku's not more popular, but everybody's always like, "Oh, it's very Heroku-like. Oh, it's very, and it's because it's so easy and you don't have to think
yep.
about it and you can just deploy a service. It's so much easier than doing a lot of things. So it's, just because it's the cool new tech doesn't mean it's the right tech for you.
And that's the thing too, is I feel like with AI, people are either all in, I live, breathe, and eat this right now, or they're like, I refuse. I'm gonna, whatever, put up my walls. But really, you can't know where it's useful and when it's useful unless you learn it.
Yeah, and,
So,
and the other thing that I find too is that people just getting into AI might just attach, and if you're a developer, what you'll do is you'll just attach whatever your application is to an AI endpoint, like
mhm.
to GPT or whatever it is, GPT 4.0. But in all reality, that's probably not going to get the result that you want because you have to do more in fine tuning.
Yep.
You may even want a vector database to store things. You may even want some embeddings. So you have to actually learn a little bit more about what you want to do, and then figure out the technology that's going to get you there without like hallucinations and other things that might occur.
Exactly. And that has been my whole like this is my passion lately is there's so much like hype material out there
Yep.
right now about AI, just like people wanting to put and I understand people wanting to put out AI content quickly and be a voice, right? But at the end of the day, how many of us are truly understanding it from the ground up? How many truly, like you mentioned, understand when to use what model or when there needs to be fine tuning, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So
Y- Yeah. It's
it's just
absolutely.
it's a need.
Yeah, it's absolutely, and that actually, one of the things I've been thinking about lately is like creating more content around like how to do enterprise AI the right way.
Yes, please
Because
do. Yeah.
it's just like, people get the people that don't understand it or don't take the time to understand it kind of just poo-poo it or dismiss it because they're not really understanding the use case or how it can be used in the right way.
Yep.
If they actually took the time to figure out what it can be used for, then it can be a lot more useful.
Sure. Oh, and people I think sometimes don't understand that there are different models, with different
Yeah.
efficacies. Like, when ChatGPT came on the market, right? Like, so many people like rushed to release their models, and
Yep.
the results were not all great. And there were all these memes about like answers being pulled from Reddit to their questions, stuff like that. But and so they give up on AI. Oh, AI is stupid. But the thing is, AI is an assistant, right? It's not replacing our brains. It's an assistant for one,
Yeah.
and for two, there's more than one model. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hey, look, I'm not giving up on breakdancing, even though there was somebody in the Olympics that didn't really breakdance that well.
yeah, I was just
There's a
watching
lot of
videos
different
this
models
morning.
out there.
You know, exactly, exactly. So just being a little more open-minded, doing your own research, that kind of
Yep.
thing.
Yep. I still got my cardboard. I'm gonna still breakdance. I'm not giving up.
I saw the side by side this morning of like the U.S. breakdancer versus I think it was Australia, right?
Yep.
That video.
Yep.
I want to see your like the stitch on your version of breakdancing.
Yeah.
See if you
I'm old school. I
compete.
learned everything from Breaking Two, Electric Boogaloo. So
You can
that
actually
was
breakdance. You're not messing around right now.
maybe
Are you
when I
being
was
serious?
younger, but not
Wow,
anymore.
I'm still impressed. Dang.
But it's a good reference because just thinking about that, if you judged the model of breakdancing on one person, then you wouldn't think that it was any,
Oh
maybe not as
no,
good.
exactly, exactly.
So I
Um,
just, it's relevant today. Now we know where we are in the recording process.
and as an engineer, I think it's great when people come into things skeptical because we can be curious about AI, but also add that layer of this is the reality of what can be done with AI past the marketing, blah blah blah.
Well, that's also another problem is that, every single company was just attaching their existing solution and pointing it to creating an AI chatbot around it. What
Yeah.
use does that have? And really what it did is when I was talking to people that are in VC, they're like, we're really skeptical about AI now because it's just not, we're not seeing a lot of companies that are doing things that are really innovative. And there was a while when they were really, really when it was that way. And I feel like we're at like this second phase now where that's kind of fallen off a little bit because everyone was just kind of attaching it. And now you're starting to see real solutions that actually have benefits.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, there was that rush to do like the little like shiny circle or sparkle at the top of every application, right? I still have that in so many apps. I'm like, I even try to mess with it. Like, was there a reason that this was put here? Can I get something out of this experience? But so far the answer is no.
Yeah, and I like to use comparisons a lot. For me, the reason why people liked Tesla originally is because it was written from the ground up to be basically a computer on wheels, and it was very advanced. And then what the car companies all did is just say, we're going to stick an electric engine in an existing technology car, and it really didn't work out that well. And it's like that's exactly the same way that they're looking at AI right now. They're just sticking an AI in an old application that maybe isn't really designed to do that.
Yep, and it's discrediting AI, like you mentioned. Yep. Well, and I mean, even with AI, AI is not new, right? Like, I liked AI before. Yeah, I liked AI before the big boom or whatever you want to call this. Yeah. And that's the hard thing too. Is like when you say AI, like, what are you referring to? I mean, there's so much confusion around it.
No, unlike cloud native, where we have a really well-defined lexicon that people like. If you say I am in DevOps, obviously everybody thinks the same thing.
Yep. Oh my gosh, that's a whole other tangent I could go down, is like tech terminology. But
I really feel like somebody should. Maybe that's what I'll do next: is create like a lexicon of terms, and you have to agree upon what these terms are until you get to like a finite amount of people that agree.
Oh my gosh, isn't that like how Webster works or something? Like, so many people have to start using a word in a certain context, and okay, now we'll add it to the dictionary.
I never heard of Webster. Is that Webster? Oh, you mean Webster Dictionary?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Going back old school.
Webster,
new AI tool called Webster.
Yeah, I thought it was something new. No, Webster Dictionary. Yeah, I gotcha.
Oh yeah, you know what? I always joke too. Like, I think it's a way to like feel innovative without being innovative too. It's like, if we have a new term for it and nobody knows what it means.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're in tech, so everybody creates an acronym for everything. Yeah. So so it's insane here. We used to. It's funny at Cisco. We used to have a term like shit. There was a website that had all the Cisco terms and what they meant internally.
That. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, so we used to have that. I don't know if it was ever kept up, but it was like, because there were just so many acronyms for things.
Yeah, I mean, I empathize. I hate typing stuff out. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked into it because it's been a few years. I'm in part of the bubble now, right? So most of the time, like 85% of the time now, I get the acronym.
Yeah. So going back to like the AI stuff, what's your next piece of this journey? What are you trying to prove out, or what are you trying to do next? What excites you next?
Well, I will be honest. Part of this journey is just staying on top of new developments. For instance, at Cisco Live in June, I gave this first AI coding assistant talk and how you can use it in automation. And within the 2 months I created this presentation, they came out with like 4 new features, right? I'm like, oh crap, learn it, include it. So part of that is just like keeping people up to date and cutting through the noise of how to make people's lives easier, right? Because that's my goal at the end of the day. I want to make being a developer easier.
Yes.
There's other pieces of it, kind of like you mentioned, comparing different coding assistants or coding generators, because there's so many on the market right now, and everybody's got a different opinion. And I want to be able to say definitively, no, you would use this for this for that. That kind of guidance doesn't exist.
Yep.
And beyond that, I mean, I'm kind of into this AI security stuff. I don't want to talk about it too much because I know you've got people coming on who know a lot more than me about it. But
that's feel free. Though.
One of the biggest questions I get around these coding assistants are they training on my data, and are they secure, and blah blah blah. And so I went to these conferences recently trying to find some answers, because the rate of AI development is much faster than our knowledge of how to secure AI, potential new attack vectors. So that's maybe another avenue I'm going to keep diving down.
Yeah, actually, a few episodes back, I had, I think his name's Peter Gagini. He is the president of Tab9. Come on. So we were talking about, they were one of the originators of like coding assistants. They've been around for a long time. And I think even in DevNet, we had a partnership with them at one point. So it was really interesting to see how they've kind of morphed. But one of the things that's cool about their solution is that they've been enterprise first for a long time. So they, so they know, they already had that down. Like what do you what are you training your data on, and what are we, what model are you using, and what's coming in and out, and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. Well, and once you start talking about this with people, you realize how many questions they have. I mean, another big question I've had to answer is, what about new developers, people who are learning to code? Should they be allowed to use AI tools, right? Kind of like in school when you weren't allowed to use your calculator for a while. And so creating guidance around that, what role should that have? There's other questions people come up with, but I'm trying to cut through that for people.
Well, it's really funny because, when you try and use an AI assistant, especially like Copilot or something like that, it's really hard to use that if you didn't know a programming language, because you have to understand structure first and what's expected to know if it's actually doing it the right way. A lot of times what I have when I try and create a small app or something is, especially with imports, if you try and import something, it might do a recursive import where it keeps importing the same thing over and over and over again. And you kind of have to know, okay, I expect an import first, and then maybe a type, and then some kind of definition, depending on what language it is, whether it's Python or Go or whatever. You might have to understand the structure of it first in order to really do it. So it's a great assistant, and I do think it's a good learning tool in that you start to learn, once you understand the structure of a language, then you can understand some of the logic behind it and maybe even learn from it. But it might not always do it in the most optimal way. And you have to figure out, do you like that? Is it not? But sometimes, it's funny. I have friends who are, really, really senior programmers, and they're like, I can tell when somebody's using an AI coding assistant because I know what the code looks like, and I know that it's not optimized. It's not necessarily the way I would do it, but it works. And it figures it out, and they'll fix it later. So, my opinion is, yes, it's a great learning tool. Maybe not in production, at this point, but if you're going to go out and learn something, use any tool possible. What makes you happy and what makes you learn it for you?
Yeah, and you hit on a very important point on, knowing what you're doing. There is a foundational base of knowledge, and that's an experiment I have not yet run. At this point, I've advised people, hey, do your typical understand the foundations of object-oriented programming or whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
And build your first app from scratch or script, whatever. It can be super basic, but just understand it before you touch, a coding assistant. But I want to run that experiment. Can I act as somebody who's never coded before? Or, do my best. I'm not that far removed from that period of my life. And what does that look like? Is it possible? So there's a lot of experiments to be run.
I almost feel like what you should do is take somebody who hasn't programmed, give the same experiment to somebody who has programmed and hasn't programmed.
I'm going to start a reality show.
Yeah, that would be an awesome show,
You do a Survivor,
code your way out of
and then the challenge is explain what you just generated.
Yes, that would be awesome. I mean, I've generated some things. It's gotten a lot better, honestly, but when I first used those types of apps, it was pretty bad. It would just, and then later on it got better and better, and to the point where when I use Anthropic's new Claude, honestly, that Claude engine is a really good engine for coding.
I've heard a lot of people be fans of that.
Yeah, I really, they've taken a lot of the crud from a lot of the other stuff and made it more deterministic, and really, really, it's if you haven't played with that yet, I mean, it's one of the better engines for coding.
No, for sure. Like I said, it's on the roadmap. I want to be able to compare and. Because, even with Copilot, right, you got to pay for Copilot. And there's lots of people who are like, curmudgeon. And I'm like, well, guys, first of all, a lot of these skills are transferable amongst the code generators, right? Everyone's going to have their favorite, and, we're in a learning phase right now. But, yes, I need to try it out.
The other thing, too, is there's a lot of different integrations to IDEs and IDEs for coding engines. And some of them do it a little bit different, where they put, a chat on the side, or you can put inline comments, or you could put, they'll have troubleshooters, or so they all work in different ways, and you really have to figure out which way works for you. I wouldn't say it's a one size fits all. VS Code has their engine, JetBrains has their engine. All these people have their different engines that they use, and depending on how you work, they may work better or worse for you.
Yep, and just depending on overall integrations too, right? I mean, I use GitHub as a code repository as
Yep.
well. So if you use Copilot, right, you can do pull request summaries and you can create knowledge repositories, blah blah blah. So yeah, you got to look into it.
Now, have you used AI to create things that go around like the coding too, like maybe like YAML files or Kubernetes, you know?
I have not, but
No.
I'm really interested in joining the beta program for Copilot's plugins. So right now
Yeah.
that's in beta. They've got like 15 companies as part of that. And it's been moving quickly enough that I hope they're going to release that or open that program soon. But that's also on my radar.
Yeah, because I feel like one of the other things about being a programmer these days that's really a little bit intimidating is that it's not just the code you're writing, it's all the stuff you need to deploy that code that goes
Yep.
around it too. You know, if I was a developer coming into it today, if I didn't start out years ago doing assembly and C and all that kind of
Right.
stuff, I would have probably been really intimidated about all the different things that you need just to get an app into these little things called microservices,
Sure.
communicating them
Yeah.
together
Yeah.
over a network and getting them out there.
You know, that's another great reason or a great thing about me starting my tech journey at Cisco, I think, is that you have to understand more than just what's in my IDE right now. And, you know,
Yep.
just plopping code in there from Stack Overflow. You know what I mean? It really is a full process,
Yep.
a full stack. So yes, I agree with you.
So usually around this part of the show, I do something that's called Buzzworthy or Buzzworthless. And what I do is I give you a couple terms related to what we were talking about that I ask you whether they're buzzworthy or buzzworthless. And you
Oh
need to
man,
give me
okay.
like a real quick explanation of whether you think they're buzzworthy and then why or why not.
Okay, I'll try. Yes. All this mystery is making me anxious, but
Yeah,
I trust you.
so
I put all my faith in you.
yeah. So Copilot, which is a generic term that also
Yes.
they use for GitHub Copilot and stuff like that. But a Copilot, is that something that's buzzworthy or buzzwordless?
Oh man. Can I answer in between? Is that cheating? Do I have to
No,
choose
not
a
at
side?
all. And a lot of people do.
Okay, I'm gonna say in between, and that's because for especially if you can't code, right? There's all these studios where you can just create them real quick in a matter of minutes, and that's really cool. But I think that they were not really created with security in mind. There's a lot of issues with them, so I would not really agree like that. Hey, you should create Copilots in your organization. So, but it's cool.
Yeah. So what about GPT itself? Is GPT still a buzzworthy term or a buzzwordless?
I think GPT is still a buzzworthy term. I think that at this point, what I would like to see is just people getting excited about evaluating GPT against other competitors, because a lot of people just kind of went into GPT and looked nowhere else. But I still think it's buzzworthy.
Those are good. I like your answers on those. So very good.
Oh, thank you.
passed.
Yeah. Oh man, it was a test. This was a reality show all along.
It was. Actually, we're all in like this virtual world right now, and we're being
Right.
evaluated.
I was gonna get like dropped into the floor.
That was it. Just like what's that English show where they have the chair that goes back? I forget what that is.
I don't know.
But anyway, anything, we're getting towards the end. Is there anything that you want to leave people with, or that you're interested in, or where to find you, or anything about anything that you just want to leave people with?
Sure. Man, well, there's so many things I could leave you with. I mean, first of all, I'll plug DevNet for one, because yes, we are trying to inform this AI conversation, but also we want y'all's feedback on, I don't know, what you want to know or what doesn't make sense, all that good stuff. The other thing, well, I'll plug myself too. You should follow me on LinkedIn because I'm following coding assistant tips.
Nice.
I don't know. I guess those are the two main things I'll plug right now.
Well, that's amazing, and we'll put some links in the show notes for you for people to find you. But thank you so much for coming on. This has been great, and I love to hear people. We don't have enough people internally come on, and I just love to hear people doing interesting things at and getting it out there that people are doing interesting things at Cisco too.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the platform.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Thanks.
Yeah, take care.